you're in healthcare. You're treating a person, you're not treating a body part. And so you have to approach the person.
Yes. So humble. You'd be like, man, I came and I just fixed these people. And
That's not my business model. Right? Like,
when should a fitness professional refer people to you?
it depends, but the rule of thumb is if there is pain involved, that doesn't just magically change by changing your movement pattern, like by changing your form, for example. Like I'll give you a clear one where, okay, people are doing a squat and their back is hurting, but you can clearly see they're not solid in the core, and you can clearly see this is easily like changeable from your perspective as a trainer. Yes. And you've changed their form and that goes away. Okay, fine. That's not the pain I'm talking about.
Okay.
But if it's something that's unrelenting, if it's new and needs to be addressed in a way that may require more than just form changing or little cues here and there. Because sometimes we do cue things to remove the pain, and it just hides it. It hides the actual problem.
Yes.
So there's no clear-cut answer, but like a clear-cut one was like a back squat that you could just say, okay, tuck this in and you'll be fine. That's not one of those cases. Right. But if you have knee pain doing a prowler push, and I've seen this, like that's not something that should be happening, right? Like it's not. And so those pain is usually the number one reason a referral, and it's not even that you can't train them. You can still train around the pain. There's no reason not to. It's more making sure that there's nothing else going on. And in my end, it's the same thing. I have to make sure there's nothing else going on that's beyond my scope. So if there's red flags, I'm no longer going to treat them. I'm going to send them to the next professional that's probably more in line with what they need.
Yes.
And so on and so forth. And it goes right back. If it comes to the point where, okay, now I'm just teaching them deadlifts, I'm no longer the expert at this. Like this is no longer I could do it, but it's not my strength. Gotcha. And it shouldn't be. I know how to teach a deadlift, but there's better cuers out there. There's trainers that are, and I know a few of them at High Octane that do a much better job than me at teaching a deadlift. And that's the whole purpose.
Right? Like, who is it that you recommend that every trainer should have, like just like on speed dial as part of their circle of care for their clients, besides yourself?
No, it's just me.
Yeah.
No, anyone. Okay, so anyone with a good understanding of mechanics. It's not a certain profession. They have to be able to put their hands on someone. So a physio, a chiro, a good RMT who can put their hands on someone, and then an athletic therapist. So if you have an osteopath as well, there's very good ones.
Yes.
So those are 5 main ones. There's definitely other types of practitioners, but those are the 5 that people tend to think about.
Yes.
In terms of just making sure that they know what your language is and they can translate their language into yours so that there's good understanding between the two, and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
So the type of profession is not that relevant. It's the person you're dealing with that matters more. I've seen good chiros, I've seen bad chiros, same for physios, same for RMTs, same for everyone. So it's the person,
trainers, right? Like, yeah.
Personal training, everyone. It's any profession has good and bad apples. We all deal with our own demons from the inside, and so you got to find the right one. So yeah, they all have strengths. Some people tend to, like, not all chiros or physios for that matter deal with people in the gym. They don't.
Right. Yes.
They deal with more of a general population, and that's fine. I gravitated towards that because I've always been promoting activity and exercise and
yes,
and a good lifestyle. So to me, that vibes with what I do.
And that's that's exactly it. And that's been my experience. I'm sure it's the same for people who listen as well. Where my first experience with a chiro was a guy who was almost along the lines of, okay, well, that hurts. We'll just don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and I got that a lot growing up when I had like back pain when I was playing football in high school. And, you know, I missed half a season because the guy said, well, just don't do that. Don't play football anymore. And
I know, isn't it? Yeah. there's definitely a fine line between under like overdiagnosing, over-treating, and just making sure that they do it properly, right?
Yes.
And so a lot of people just feel safer. They're like, the do no harm applies, right? Okay, well, you're not going to play football. I'm definitely not going to harm you doing that. And therefore, you know, I'm not liable, right? Because I've told you not to do what doesn't hurt, and there's a liability issue there. So
it's true. And, you know, and before I met you, the other chiro that I was sending people to was a triathlete. And like, for good or for bad, I basically judged chiros by what sports they played.
Okay.
See what I mean? So like, okay, this guy's a chiro, but I see him working out and he's got really good form when he works out. I'll send people to him. This guy's a triathlete, so I know he understands playing through pain and getting people moving again, so I'll send people to him. Or this guy, as opposed to, you know, well, this guy has a really nice office and he drives a nice car, so he must be successful.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's usually a good sign that they're probably putting their money and valuing things that you don't at this point. Like if all they think about is their car and the office, then we're missing something here in the patient care, because it's actually expensive to run a decent healthcare clinic without paying for frills.
Yes.
And so unless they've been doing it for 50 years, that's a different story. But like if they're like 10 years in and they're a millionaire, sure, good for them, good business, probably. But there's something you have to be like, there's nothing wrong with making money. But in healthcare, it's really hard to make that kind of money. So if in 10 years they're doing that, there's something going on. Either you can go and check it out for yourself, you're not going to get hurt, or you might see that it's not up to your standards.
As a chiro, how much business acumen do you have to bring to this? Because obviously you have a ton of schooling and understanding that, but like fitness, like professional trainers or you know, Pilates instructors, like, it's one thing to be out there to help people, it's another thing to actually have some business acumen as well. So can you speak about that from your perspective?
Yeah, the truth is we get a couple courses. We don't come out with an MBA, right? Like we don't come out with the full understanding of what it is to run a business. We also didn't sign up for it, right? Like most of us in the healthcare, we don't sign up to make money. If you want to make money, you go into business. You take a business program, and then you want to make your money that way. You figure out what you want to do that. But most of us, we just want to make sure people get better. So we don't go into the program thinking, oh, how am I going to make money? That comes later, and it definitely hits you hard. But on the business aspect, you have to figure out, because we got expenses off the bat, whether or not we're paying rent, we get at minimum, this is doing nothing, having not put your hands on anyone, like $400 to $500 down the drain. There's nothing, just to keep your license. And so you have to figure out how to make money sort of fast.
Yeah.
Like, and that's no rent. You're not paying rent. You're not giving away any split. There's no money being made yet. It's zero. So just off the bat, some people feel pressure. They have their student loans because chiro school is $23,000 a year for 4 years.
Yes.
So a lot of pressure there. A lot of pressure to make that money. But they don't teach you how to make that money back. There's one model that we know works, and that model is not good healthcare. And so to me, I never wanted to do that. It's the spend 5 minutes, you do a couple adjustments, next person, and they go off and go about their day. Very, very high volume model. It works.
Like an
it works.
line.
It works as a business. It works as a business. I would definitely change professions if that's what I had to do.
Okay. So what is your business model then for those who want to come to see OV Chiropractic?
Well, the thing is, the time that I spend with people is, I think, the most valuable thing for myself and for them, because there needs to be a conversation happening. So it's never one-sided. It's more, I need to hear their story first.
Okay.
So if I meet you for the first time and I don't know anything about you, we have the hour. If we need to spend the hour chatting and doing a physical, and then I'll just do the treatment the next time because I'm running out of time, that's what's needed. If I can get an understanding of what's going on within 10, 15 minutes, no problem, let's go. But the model is the time that we spend is more valuable than how many times I have to see you. So I can get things done in 3-4 sessions that I normally would in 7-8 sessions, right? Like, so we charge a little bit more for that reason. But it's from what I found, it's worked for both myself and my patients. It's never 100%, success rate, but I let people tell me if there's something going on that they're not so comfortable with, and then we change it up.
Oh no, I was gonna say it sounds like a very relationship-based model.
Yeah,
like summarizing
absolutely.
what you said, like if I was to spend an hour talking with you, and then the next time, actually treating with you, because I have such a full understanding from that first session, we may get accomplished in 3 sessions what would have taken 7 or 8 sessions if you just came in, made adjustment, and then sent you underway every single time.
And that's the thing. A lot of places they'll be like, okay, so how you feel? Scale of 1. They're filling the boxes, right? The legal boxes we have to check. So how do you feel? Where does it hurt? Can I touch it? Okay. Does that hurt? Okay. That's where I'm going to adjust you. Let's go. Let's do it. And off you go. And then it moves better. Okay. That's my, outcome measure. It moves better, or it feels like it's less stiff. Off you go. See you next Tuesday. I don't think I've provided the exact same treatment to one person every single time. Like the exact same.
Right.
And
right.
Just like a training session is never the exact same if you're doing a good job.
Fair.
Because that person doesn't feel good that day, or that person feels like they're stronger today, so they could push harder. Or that person, they just trained yesterday, so they have DOMs. And you have to, that's the difference between, I was telling you earlier in our topics, like the treatment and therapy are different.
Treatment and therapy are different.
Yes. Because, or therapy / technique, right? Like,
okay, yeah.
ART is a technique that you use to provide therapy, but it's part of your treatment. And the treatment is figuring out what the person actually, their goal is. And to get them to their goal, you provide whatever is needed. So that's the treatment. The therapy is the application of one technique or, one modality, if you will. So
yes,
a laser is a therapy, right?
Okay.
But I don't do laser. I provide healthcare. Sometimes I use laser.
Okay, I gotcha.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yes. So it's not just semantics. It actually is the difference between the way that you approach the treatment.
Yeah, absolutely. So I people say, oh, what do you do? Like, what techniques do you have? Does it really matter? It doesn't. At least to me. To some it does, and it's a selling point, and that's why I have to list it.
Yes. Well, people.
But if I say,
like, are you gonna crack me today? Like, I mean, I don't want that. Like,
absolutely.
Then you have to be able to articulate what exactly you're doing.
Absolutely, and people are like, oh, do you do ART? Well, technically, I don't have the ART. I don't pay my fees in ART, so I can't say that I do. Right? Like, you have to pay a fee to be able to provide ART after you take the courses. To keep saying, because it's copyrighted, and so
yes,
can't say that you provide ART if you don't pay every year.
So it's like Zumba, basically. You can do dance fit, but you
I guess. Yeah. So I just call it myofascial release or soft tissue release, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, you use your hands to help the muscles and the nervous system at the same time. So
well,
that's what it is.
Full disclosure, like both you and I work out of High Octane, which is like a gym / clinic /
It's a hybrid.
Right?
It's a hybrid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I love seeing you, like you'll have someone come in for treatment and you'll be out on the gym floor getting them to move. So you have to actually assess them in their environment when they're like in a situation where they may have that flare up. So that really sets you apart, right? Because not every chiro has that luxury.
No, it's a great luxury to have. That's for sure. If Andrew's still listening, he provides a great environment for that.
What made you decide to get into chiropractic?
Yeah. Again, it's more of what I knew. I dabbled into everything. So I did my phys ed at U of T.
Okay.
So I did the 4-year bachelor there, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I did a placement with the football team. It was basically athletic therapy, like helper. I was an assistant there.
What year was
it? Did not. That was third year.
Okay.
And I had the option to go for 4th year.
Yes.
And I did not enjoy how I was treated, quite honestly.
Is it because
it's basically? No, I mean, they could have been winning. I was still the water boy, basically, you know. So I'm like, is this what I'm trying to learn? Like, am I trying to learn to give water to guys that don't really know how to play football that well? So no, I didn't enjoy that. So I didn't go into athletic therapy. It could have been an avenue that I definitely would have enjoyed, but I just didn't. So I made my choice between physio and chiro because I always wanted to prevent and help people with their injuries.
Okay.
The reason I chose chiro is, again, that's a perception. I perceived, and I think I still am correct in that sense, that I have more freedom to grow my business the way I want.
Yes. As a chiro?
Yeah.
I think someone's laughing at our shots at University of Toronto's football team there.
I know. That's fine. They were laughable. I don't even know how they're doing anymore, but they were laughable.
I know.
York was the only team that was worse than them.
Right. Yes.
They probably still are. So we were happy when we got that one win.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I chose to do that just because there was a little more leeway. My scope was a little bit wider, so there's more things I can do. Not that I have to, but I can choose to.
Yeah.
And so, I was lucky enough. I wouldn't have gone to another school. The chiropractic college in Toronto, the one in Canada, basically, is probably one of the most evidence-based. So they've had their past with claims that aren't so scientifically based, but they've tried to remove those as much as possible. So I was happy because in the first year I would have left if that wasn't working, but I was happy to see that they were on the mark with their science, so they were getting there. So I enjoyed my 4 years there. Listen,
what's been your best success story?
Or
a success story?
Oh, there's a good one, and I enjoyed that because there was no. It came out of the blue. One of our members, I saw him a few times. You know him. I won't name him, but his mom got knee surgery, and she's 70 years old. Very, very nice. She's a woman that likes to talk a lot, so she told me a lot of stories. But she was sent to me with no options. Her son would not send her anywhere else, and we did the rehab. We did the early rehab and then the late exercise rehab, and she's flying now. That's fantastic at her age. But the surgeon sent out a word that he hadn't seen in Mississauga. He hadn't seen such a success with post knee arthroscopy rehab.
Wow.
He doesn't know who to send people to in Mississauga. I'm not saying anywhere else, but in this case, the people he sent to Mississauga didn't get good results. So I was happy to hear that, but more importantly, that lady's smile it definitely helps my day. It definitely
keeps you going. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Nice. She wants to go. She's still working.
What's the worst horror story of someone coming to you that's been to other, not to knock on the chiros, but
no, and it's not even knocking the chiros. In this case, this is what I'm talking about with bad business models. There's a lot of clinics out there, a lot, and they do the exact same thing. Those clinics get almost all the referrals for car accidents. And they get them from their lawyers that they're, you know, they know lawyers. The lawyers send their clients to them. And then regardless of who's working there, the same thing is offered. You're in healthcare. You're treating a person. You're not treating a body part. And so you have to approach the person.
Yes. So humble. You'd be like, man, I came and I just fixed these people. And no.
That's not my business model. Right? Like,
but a thing that you just love when they come in, you're just like, yes, let's go. I love working with this.
Hips. Hips would be hips, because hips usually also mean there's low back issues, and hips often lead to knee issues. So the lower kinetic chain is what I like. I do treat neck and shoulders all the time. But they're less complex. They're because you're not anchored to the floor with your hands, you can get away with a lot of different ways to treat a shoulder, which is good. You know, a lot of people can get better with shoulder injuries through different treatments, forms, and techniques. But you need good principles if you're treating lower body, so hips and below. You need to know your mechanics. And I've always been a little bit of a geek in biomechanics, because it all works at the nervous system level. Your brain has to know that this is available.
Right.
And then it sends signals to the muscles. It sends the signals to the muscles that now, okay, I can go there because I feel safe. And so I will tell you to rotate my hip this way. Right. And you'll feel safe, and there won't be any pinching, and there won't be any. And if there is pinching, no matter what you do, this is when you go see someone who knows hips.
Right. So is it like, are you saying like almost like the body has to trust itself that it has that range of motion?
Oh, no. There's movement. There's no good movement without threat being eliminated. So a lot of people feel stiff. A lot of people feel stiff in their hamstrings. A lot of people feel stiff in their hip flexors, as they say, or their low back, because the stiffness that is being induced is protecting them from any perceived stress on the joints.
Okay.
Usually, or there was a tear on the muscles. And so if the brain, because the brain controls all of that, perceives a threat from moving in that direction, it will stiffen up the muscles that let you go into that direction. So touching your toes from a standing position, if your hamstrings are not loose, for lack of a better word, you will not touch your toes, right? But it's not a question of how much you stretch your hamstrings. It's a question of what is being used to stabilize your body as you flex forward. And if the answer is hamstrings only, you're not touching your toes no matter what you do.
Right. So
your body has to know what it needs to stabilize. So you practice all these range of motion, and in Pilates, you practice a lot of core stability, so that's helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so if you learn to stiffen your hamstrings to bend forward, you are not going to go far. You're not going to go far.
Yes.
In terms of hip rotation, it's the same thing. You won't be able to, even walking requires hip rotation.
Yes.
So there's an element of your pelvis rotating onto your hip each step you take. So if you're lacking, the main rotation needed for that is internal rotation. External is usually available, but internal rotation, if it's lacking, you're going to turn your foot out and walk a little bit.
Yeah, pigeon-toed.
Like this, pigeon-toed. And that leads to certain things. Sometimes there's no pain. So I'm not going to equate bad form to pain, because those things are very gray in that sense. There's no cause and effect, but let's call it what it is. There's a better way to walk, and there's a less appropriate way to walk. Yes. If you walk pigeon-toed, you're now going to turn your feet in. So your big toe is going to collapse and your arch is going to collapse, right? Yes. So maybe there's no pain there, but then 10 years down the road, you come in with knee pain, and that's been going on for 10 years.
10 years. You're passionate about, I've been waiting to get onto this topic.
Yeah.
And movement. It's like, Okay, so let me throw a couple out and tell me if they're fad or if they're legit or if it's like, it depends on.
Okay.
Inversion tables.
Oh yeah, I remember talking about that. It depends.
Okay.
It all works for some people. Everything works for some people.
Okay.
Nothing works for everyone, right? So inversion, the idea, at least, is to make space in the spine, basically to create laxity where there's already compression. So you want to distract the segments of the spine. But depending on the person that you're dealing with, either sometimes their muscles just aren't going to let go. It doesn't matter how long you go into the distraction table or the inversion table, the muscles aren't letting go because there's no safety in distraction. There's no safety in inversion. So why would they let go? Two, they're angled differently. So if their joints are angled a little more arched, like their back is more arched, you distract those joints, it's actually going to distract the front and pinch the back.
Okay.
It's not gonna help them, right? So if they have an acute disc herniation, and they've had good results, they can try it. It's very, very dependent on where the herniation is, how severe it is, and how much in pain they are.
Next one.
Again, yeah.
Percussion therapy, like hypervolts, THERAGUNs, all that stuff.
You remember the difference between treatment and therapy, right?
Yes.
I use a hypervolt.
Okay.
I use it. I have it. I enjoy it. I'm not getting paid by these guys. I ended up liking but if you know what you're using it, what your goal is with the hypervolt, that's good. What do you do with what you've acquired from using the hypervolt is what matters.
Yes.
Because I can hypervolt you till the cows come home and you have a stiff upper back, and we'll do hypervolt on the shoulder blades and the traps. And then you go home and sit on your ass for a day. Like, what's the point? Like, cool, you feel better for 25 minutes. Good. All right.
But isn't that going to, but like if I do it for 25, I feel better for 25 minutes and then do it the next day and feel better for 30 minutes and do it and feel like, is that not progress still?
You can see that happening in some people, but the evidence isn't there to say that this happens a lot with a lot of people, right? Like, like I said, it might work for some. And so if you find that this has worked on your clients or some people, cool. But why are they stiff in the first place? Right? You're not addressing the why, right? You're not addressing the why at all. You're just addressing the what, and that's fine. A lot of people pay money for that.
Yes.
I don't like to stop there. I don't like to stop there.
A good friend of mine, Chad Benson, he does a course with the HYPERVOLT and HYPERICE and all their, all of their pieces. The way he explains it is, it's like a life hack. So I can use this HYPERVOLT to get me into range of motion, but it's still my responsibility as a movement specialist to teach people proper movement patterns so
100%.
that they don't just repeat the same thing. Because that's just a Band-Aid, right? So that's wonderful. You could do that when you were like this before. But you're going to sleep on your same shoulder the same way. You're going to sit at your desk the same way. You're going to drive your car the same way. And you're going to be right back in that same movement pattern.
100%. And that is true of all manual therapies, not just the HYPERVOLT.
Yes.
Anything you do from the outside to the person, so on the skin, basically, will only affect, you cannot touch their muscles. You can only touch the skin. So it affects the skin and the underlying nerves that are just nearby. So you can put input, you're creating input into the body from the outside.
Yes.
You're not lengthening anything. There's no friction between the skin and muscles. You're not actually releasing. So releasing is a word that a lot of people throw around.
Yes.
The only release that happens is their brain tells their muscles to relax. So if you can figure out a way to do that, I don't care what therapy you use.
Yeah, right.
It works, right? It works. And so Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So I can use the hypervolt in a scraping technique to create that.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, you're creating input. You're
use my thumb and do the same thing, right?
Yeah. The one difference with vibration or percussion therapy is that the speed at which it goes does make a difference in how much feedback you're giving the body. So it's going so fast that you're actually confusing a little bit the brain.
Yes.
So you're telling the brain, you know what, there's too much going on, relax. And your brain will tell you, okay, you know what, I probably shouldn't be contracting, relaxing all the time. I'm going to start relaxing this muscle. It's probably overused. So you're right by saying it's a hack.
Yes.
Like in that sense, I think, hacking is a term I would use.
Yeah.
So it's like a nervous system hack, but don't confuse it with, okay, now your muscle's longer. And we've made a structural change to this because it's just not true. Yeah. And so people will say and claim these things. Oh, we're releasing your muscle. We're making it longer. And that's why you're getting better. And you know what? They're getting better no matter what. So people are like, yeah, you must be right. Same for anything. So if I claim that that my methods are proven to work because it does this and this and this. So Graston releases scar tissue, or
acupuncture.
I don't know, acupuncture. Again, acupuncture goes inside the body.
Fair. Okay. Yeah.
Right. So there's a mechanism you can defend there.
Yes.
I don't perform it. I don't disagree with those who do. But when you tell me acupuncture releases your chi, that's where I stop you and I ask you a question about that. There's a difference between the physical mechanism of inserting a needle into the muscle and the fact that you're claiming now that your chi is being released through that needle. That's philosophical. If it works for you and it works for your patients, fine. You're not going to sell me on that.
Next
right?
one.
Yeah.
Dr. Ho.
Yeah, same principle.
Any kind of like EMT, like magnetic therapy.
Has anyone listening used? So it doesn't feel good. I don't get it. I don't think it feels good. Some people enjoy it.
Yes.
I thoroughly hate the feeling of it.
Is that the same? That's the same as what you do in a physiotherapy clinic, is it not?
It's a TENS machine.
TENS machine.
So the initial Dr. Ho is like the first thing he sold, minus like the diabetic foot thing and whatever. But the pads, they're not proprietary to him. He didn't invent this. He's just marketing it through his trademark, and that's what he's selling, a TENS machine. You can buy this for cheaper. Go for it. It does, after 20 minutes, help your muscles relax. Sometimes people don't enjoy it. It won't work. If they can't take it for more than 20 minutes, it barely does anything. It's just not pleasurable.
How much of that is just being educated on where to place the pads too, right? Wouldn't you have to understand like origin and insertion points for each muscle and how they connect?
Absolutely.
All that stuff too to maximize it? Absolutely,
because the electrical impulses you're sending are to the muscles right there. And so when you see the person twitch, their muscles activating because they're being sent an electrical impulse. If you're putting it on a different muscle, it's not going to affect the same muscle. So you have to know where to put it.
Yes.
That's not too hard. There's usually guides that come with it. There's a lot of books or little booklets or pamphlets with how to put your pads on, right?
Yes. Yeah. Any fads that I missed? Anyone that you want to just like blast?
And it's not the brand. It's not the brand Dr. Ho that I object to. It's anything like that. I don't object to it. There's a place for it, but it's not a cure-all. So the claims that they make on the ads, I don't know how they get away with it, but they do. Another fad, fascial stretching. Dude,
okay.
You can't stretch fascia. End of story.
Okay.
You need 2,000 pounds of pressure for a few hours to stretch your IT band. Nobody in the world can put 2,000 pounds of pressure on anything.
Yes.
And so the fact, and fascia, and the other goal is, are you sure you want to stretch fascia? Because fascia is not something you necessarily want to be stretching. it gives a lot of feedback, and we're still learning about fascia, but it creates a lot of feedback between the muscles and the connection between the muscles. So when we say the body is connected, everything's connected in the body, through fascia and the nervous system, it is connected. And so you don't necessarily want to stretch it, because it basically desensitizes that area, and you no longer get the feedback required to perform the movements appropriately.
So then that goes into the discussion of dynamic versus static stretching as well, no?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And they have different purposes. They have different.
So can you speak to static versus dynamic, and then also Andrew's question about hot versus cold therapy?
Yeah, and other contentious issues. I don't claim to know everything about hot and cold, but the rule of thumb, and now cold is no longer recommended for acute sprains, especially if you want to recover. If you're looking for pain relief,
yes,
cold usually numbs it.
Right.
So you're looking for pain relief and you need to be walking on it for a bit, you're probably going to go with cold. But if you need to recover because you have a game in 2 weeks, you probably shouldn't go with cold.
Okay.
At all. Because it decreases blood flow.
Interesting. So we have 1 minute and 30 seconds left. Can you believe that? That was like the fastest.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, I know. I told you I have opinions on everything.
I know. So I love getting you going on these fads and stuff like that. So so I'm gonna go buy an inversion table, get some acupuncture, and make sure that Dr. Ho is products are in my house. You're
providing all those techniques and therapies, right?
Yes.
So you must be good.
Right.
No, thanks for having me on, man. It was
love
to talk about these things. Yeah.
So